This is the Morecraft Calliope here at the International Circus Hall of Fame in Peru, Indiana. I'm Darren. This is the Industrial Revolution. Let's watch it play. We'll come back to this impressive steam Calliope in a bit and get a very up-close look at how it actually works too. But first, let's take a look at the history of Calliopes. I can already hear people typing in the comments that it's pronounced Calliope, not Calliope. We'll come to that too, I promise. Pipe organs can actually be traced back to at least the 3rd century BCE, but we're not going to go that far back. They can get huge, and they can also get very complex, with different sets of pipes called ranks, simulating different instruments called voices. To control all that, the keyboards can obviously get pretty complex too. The air for those pipes comes from an incredibly low pressure, pressurized box called a wind chest. It's pressurized to anywhere from 1/4 psi of air up to maybe a few psi of pressure for the absolutely huge pipe organs. They achieved this pressure using anything from water wheels to manual bellows, which were powered by foot pedals or even young boys in the church. Pipe organs can produce some beautiful music, but they're designed to be placed inside, never move, and not make everyone deaf when they're played. The steam trumpet was invented in 1832. Unlike the pipe organ, it's designed to be powered by high-pressure steam. You've probably not heard the name, but you've certainly heard steam trumpets. Similar to some pipe organ pipes, these steam trumpets were all metal and designed to operate at pressures around 50 to 100 psi. They were designed to be used outside and designed to be loud and heard from a long ways away, like the whistle on the Heston Steam Museum's H.K. Porter locomotive. These steam train whistles started out with just a single note, but later evolved to play multiple notes, like this one on the Shea locomotive, also at Heston. Watch the engineer's hand up near the ceiling. You can see him pulling part way for the first note and pulling harder for the second. I know someone who collects steam whistles. If you'd like to see a video on them, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if he's willing to share his collection with us. With all those different notes being produced by steam trumpets, it obviously didn't take too much time for somebody to realize that they could make music with them, and in 1855, Joshua C. Stoddard patented the first steam Calliope, and he wasn't alone. Of course, running at 50 to 100 psi of steam pressure, these musical instruments were very loud. So loud, in fact, that they could often be heard clearly as much as 5 miles or 8 kilometers away. Several cities even banned them because they were so loud. In fact, when Joshua Stoddard first played his invention on the town commons in Worcester, Massachusetts, it caused such a public panic that the city council completely banned it within a year. Who'd ever want something that loud? Well, it turns out there were 2 groups who wanted them. Steamboats were running up and down the major rivers of the world, and they they needed people to know they were coming. Some riverboats were floating casinos, some were showboats, some were even, essentially, floating versions of Amazon. No matter the boat, though, the Calliope would give a good hour or 2 of warning that the riverboat was coming. That'd give plenty of time for everyone to get to the dock and prepare to be the best customers a riverboat could ever want. The Calliope was their main form of advertising. The other group that really loved the Calliope was the Circus. In the days before the circus traveled by trucks, they would show up in town on the train. The train would park on a siding, often at the outskirts of town. It'd unload, then parade right through the center of downtown. That's the origin of the circus parade. With elephants walking down Main Street, a long line of brightly painted wagons, and the loud steam calliope bringing up the rear, everyone knew the circus was in town. People followed the circus parade, especially kids, who were often offered a free ticket to help set up the show. Of course, they then brought their parents back with them for the show, and the parents had to buy tickets. During the circus, the Calliope provided the music, which has been the soundtrack for the circus for well over a century. But how do they actually work? Just like the pipe organ, the steam Calliope is powered by its own version of the wind chest, only here it's called the steam chest. The Morecraft steam Calliope here can run up to 100 psi of steam pressure, but that's very loud. Today it's throttled down to only 30 psi, and you may have noticed I'm still wearing earplugs to stand in front of it. Everyone not wearing earplugs is keeping their distance. Older Calliopes, just like older pipe organs, ran complex linkages of rods and strings from each key on the keyboard to a valve on each pipe, which is called tracker action. The valves, unlike most musical instruments, operate either entirely open or entirely closed. As you can see from this 1958 pipe organ in the First Presbyterian Church in Austin, Texas, it could get complicated pretty quick. Calliopes, though, were typically much more simple than that. They originally still had all the linkages and everything, of course, but they typically only have one rank of pipes. The smallest Calliopes have only 8 pipes, but even the largest only run into the 60s, so still less than a standard pipe organ. This steam Calliope is only a few years old and was built by Zach Morecraft, who's now playing it. He learned to build them from his father, Dave Morecraft, who single-handedly started a resurgence in construction of traditional steam Calliopes back in 1985. Since this one is so new, instead of the old-style linkages, the keyboard actually uses electrical microswitches, connecting directly to steam solenoids on each whistle on the Calliope. The solenoids connect all the whistles to the manifold, which connects to the steam chest, which connects to the boiler. But what about the whistles themselves? Zach showed me one that he had to take off to repair. He's made them all by hand out of machined brass components, except for the main cylinder, which is a half-hard copper, soft enough to bend, but hard enough to stand up to the heat. Steam comes up through the steam inlet, past the solenoid, into the lower chamber, called the bowl or base. That's almost completely blocked off by a metal disc called the languid. If you look close, you can see that around the outer edge of the languid, there's a very narrow gap called the windway. That directs the steam out of the base in a very narrow but high-speed hollow cylinder of steam. The steam quickly crosses the gap, called the mouth, before hitting the lip, where turbulence creates oscillations. The oscillations create vibration in the steam inside the upper hollow part of the whistle, called the resonator or the bell. Those oscillations create the sound that you actually hear. To tune the whistle, you use the long bolt at the top. It's sometimes hidden down inside the pipe on some Calliopes. This lets you move a plug, called it the tuning plug, tuning stopper, or tompion, up and down inside the bell. Moving it down shortens the air column, increasing the frequency and pitch, making a sharper note. Moving it up decreases the frequency and pitch, making a flatter note. The steam Calliope kept evolving, of course, including into the typically much smaller, low-pressure Air Calliope, like this one sold as the Calliophone. Unlike the large steam Calliopes, which were pretty much all custom-built, these were actually built in quantity. You may notice it's playing itself. The mechanism, very similar to a player piano, works off a paper roll and a vacuum pump to activate the valves. And even this wasn't the end. Band organs, like this beautiful Gavioli Fairground organ at the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin, came in all shapes and sizes, from small ones in the center of carousels to huge ones that fill the back of a truck. They could contain dozens of ranks, stringed instruments, drums, animated characters, and more. All automated, and all of it directly evolved from the steam Calliope. But what about the name? So this video is made possible thanks to the generosity of people helping out here on YouTube with super thanks, or through memberships at patreon.com/industrialrevolution, or by clicking the join button here. If you're able to help out, I appreciate it. If not, fully understand. In any case, let's get back to the video. Well, this is Calliope, the Greek muse of poetry, on the left, and Euterpe, the Greek muse of music, on the right. The origin story for the Calliope is a bit murky. If it really were named after a Greek muse, though, don't you think they'd have at least gone with the muse of music and not poetry? Circus people, carnival people, riverboat people, and really anyone who plays them, if you say Calliope, they'll immediately know what you're talking about, and they probably won't even correct you. If you say Calliope, though, it's almost like a secret handshake. They'll instantly know you're at least, maybe, just a little bit of an insider. Or maybe you've just seen this video. If you play or spend time around them, they're Calliopes. If you just listen to them occasionally, you can get away with Calliope. But which one is actually correct? In 1913, the St. Louis magazine Reedy's Mirror, located in the heart of riverboat country, published the following by American poet Vachel Lindsay in an attempt to settle the dispute. Proud folks stare after me, call me Calliope. Tooting joy, tooting hope, I am the Calliope. Most people don't think about Calliopes like this when they think about the Industrial Revolution, but you really should. The circus and entertainment in general has always been at the forefront of technology. The circus back in the 1800s, it was the first time people saw animals from all over the world. It was the first time people saw electric lights in many cases. All kinds of things that people had never in their lives seen before, never even imagined. The circus brought it to them, including Calliopes like this. That's why this is the Industrial Revolution. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. You can really help us out by like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe over here. And that really helps out. And comment. I love reading your comments, and I usually respond pretty quick. If you want to see more videos on the Industrial Revolution, click the playlist over here, or the one up here that YouTube thinks you'll really enjoy next. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.